Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the iHeart Guitar podcast for another week. Today's guest is Michael Sweet of Stryper. Michael is touring Australia in November, doing some acoustic shows where he'll be, playing some Stryper songs and stuff, telling some stories in between, and, it's kind of a loose show format that I think is going to be a really cool, peek into his musical mind. This guy's a great player, great singer. You know him from Stryper, of course. You've probably heard him with Boston as well, and he's done some amazing stuff with George Lynch. So this was a really cool chat. What else is going on? August 3 and 4, if you're here in Melbourne, I will be at the Melbourne Guitar Show at Caulfield Racecourse. I'll be hosting some Meet the Players sessions on, Saturday, August 3 at the Cafe Corner, ground level west. 11:30 a.m. I'll be chatting with Jeremy Barnes and James Norbert Ivani, and 1 o'clock is Michael Dolce's masterclass, which I'll be kind of presenting, but he has his own, he doesn't really need me for that one. He knows what he's doing. Then there is a fingerstyle guitar kind of session hosted by Drew Roller, featuring Van Larkins, Fisher, and Ella Belfanti. That will be really cool. We did a similar one last year, and Drew is a great advocate for the acoustic scene just in general, but specifically people who do really interesting things with acoustic guitars. Then Sunday, August 4 is another Meet the Players day at Cafe Corner. I'll have Dave Leslie from Baby Animals at midday. Dave, you've probably heard his episode of the podcast before. He's a great guy. And then I've got Phil Manning at 1:30 p.m. Phil is an Australian kind of blues-based guitarist, absolute gentleman, brilliant player, and we've done these sessions before, and it's always really fun. He has so many great stories and insights into the instrument. Just a really cool guy. Anyway, I hope you really enjoyed this episode. I sure did, and I will catch you guys soon. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, review it, all that stuff. If you want to get in on Patreon and throw me a couple of bucks to help me keep this thing going and get better equipment, that would be really appreciated, but you don't have to. It'd be nice, but you don't have to. Anyway, here is Michael Sweet. Michael Sweet, welcome to the iHeart Guitar podcast.
It's great to be here. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me, man.
Absolutely. Dude, I'm so excited about this Australian tour. I know a bunch of Aussies that you probably see on Twitter all the time saying, when are you coming back? When are you coming back?
You know what? I do, and that's the great thing about it is, there's still that demand, and people are there to support. The fan base is in place in Australia, which is mind-blowing, since we started 35 years ago. It's just mind-boggling to me. But here I am. I have the opportunity to come as a solo acoustic artist and perform these songs for people in a completely different light. And kind of, share some stories and show people different versions of a lot of these songs, and that really excites me. It's very cool.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite records is the David Bowie Storytellers, where he's, playing acoustic songs and telling stories about his life and behind the songs and stuff like that. And I imagine you must have some great tales.
I do, man, and it's funny because I'll go from gig to gig and perform these solo shows, and when I do share stories, new things will pop into my mind. New doors will open, and I'll say, oh my gosh, I forgot about that, and I'll share that. So every show is very unique. It's not like it's cookie cutter and it's all the same, but I try to make everything very different, and Australia's going to be even more unique in the sense that there's going to be different and new stories to share, and then I'm also going to be doing some songs that I don't typically do within the set.
Cool. And you'll have a new record out by that time too, right?
I will have a new album. It's coming out in October. I can't give the exact date yet. That'll be announced very soon, within the next few weeks, when we release the first song. but it's going to be coming out in October, and I'll be playing a few songs from that album as well.
Yeah, great. The acoustic format I find so freeing because, like, when you're playing with a band, you're locked into a tempo, you're all locked in together. Sometimes there might be backing tracks with backing vocals or something, or keyboards, and you've all got to be locked in. But with an acoustic thing, you get to dictate the song based on your mood in the moment. You're not like, oh, I've got to change moods in 2 bars, and boom.
Exactly, and I do just that. There are times when I'll be playing and then I'll just stop. Mm-hmm. And I'll share something briefly and then I'll start again. And so there's no boundaries. Mm. I get to do pretty much whatever I want to do. And I love that about the acoustic set.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's very freeing, and it really is. And not just for myself, but for the audience as well.
Mm-hmm. So what's your acoustic guitar of choice?
Did you say what's my acoustic guitar of choice?
Yeah.
I'm bringing a brand new signature model, Washburn Michael Sweet acoustic.
Nice. And
when people see this, it's just mind-blowing. It's basically, I'm going to be showing pictures of it soon, and we're going to unveil it at Winter NAMM in January. But it's a quilted black maple with LR bag system and inlays, binding around the body, inlays down the neck. It's cut away, obviously. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous guitar.
Yeah. And
that's going to be available for people to purchase next year.
Cool. And man, Washburn acoustics are so great. Like, I started high school in 91, which means prime Nuno playing More Than Words on a Washburn acoustic, all through my high school years, And yeah, those guitars were always something aspirational to me.
They're very underrated. They make their line that's less expensive and more affordable, and those are nice. But when you play their high-end stuff, the custom shop stuff, which not a lot of people get to play or see, absolutely right up there with anything out there. You name it. And this guitar in particular, this signature model, is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And when people, like I said, when people see it, I'll be bringing it to Australia. When people see it, you'll know what I mean, man. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of your other signature gear. Of course, you've got the guitar, the electric guitar, which I've checked out at NAMM myself, and is damn fine.
I tell you what, man, they knocked it out of the park with that. Mm-hmm. I never thought in a million years that I'd have a signature guitar. And now we're working out, and have been for a few months, a line of Michael Sweet signature guitars. And the plan is to unveil 7 different guitars at NAMM.
Whoa.
So we've got the Signature V, Solar V, Michael Sweet. We've got the Priestess that people have seen me playing with the racing stripe down the middle. Mm-hmm. We've got the acoustic that has not been released yet. We've got a classic V, which is the body style is similar to a Rhodes, but with rounded edges instead of points. Uh-huh. And really nice looking guitar. No Floyd, single humbucker, a very bare bones guitar, very affordable. Yeah. And then we're bringing back a few of the old classic Washburn metal guitars. I used to have one. One was called an RR. It looked very similar to a Rhodes. Even with the inlays, the Jackson shark fin inlays, we're bringing that back, and then we're also bringing back another guitar called an HM. It was basically made famous by the Robert Palmer video.
Yeah, I know that one.
The girl's holding a white one. Yeah. That guitar we're bringing back, but in a Michael Sweet color scheme.
Cool.
And it's very cool, man. So these are all going to be, unleashed at Winter NAMM.
Yeah. Cool. Are you still using the Duncan Blackouts flipped around?
I'm still using the Duncan Blackouts, which I really prefer for the hard rock and metal thing, specifically with Stryper. But there are other Duncan pickups that I have in my guitars as well.
Yeah.
I've got almost every Duncan pickup ever made in my collection of guitars. But I'm very fond of the original blackouts, and then I reverse. I put the bridge in the neck position and the neck in the bridge position, and that really was a mistake done by accident. And, because they have a very similar output, it worked. I like the sweetness of the neck pickup in the bridge, and I like the bite of the bridge pickup in the neck.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Now, you also have a signature pedal through ISP, a massively kitted out preamp thing. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's really cool too, man. That's another dream come true. Basically, I wound up meeting Buck Waller, who owns and runs ISP, Buck and Shelley, his wife. And Buck, not a lot of people know this, but Buck basically is the genius and the mind behind Rocktron. He owned and ran Rocktron for years. So he wound up going out on his own, starting ISP, and they made a pedal that almost gave me what I wanted. And I said, man, why don't we take this a step further and do this, this, and that? And they wound up making me a signature pedal called the Theta, Theta, and I've got a yellow Michael Sweet model with a few of my presets in it and a few extra effects. And then they just recently came out with one called an MSX, which is a smaller, scaled-down version of that pedal. And, man, that's all I use live.
Yeah.
I plug into it, I come out of it, stereo out, XLR, directly to the console, front of house.
Yeah.
And then I feed on the quarter-inch stage outputs, I feed a couple of amps behind me. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's my tone, man. And it's that Stryper. You plug in, it's like there's the Stryper tone. It's that notched out, squawky, honky, somewhat compressed, high gain Stryper tone.
Yeah, cool. It must be so, so easy to tour now with stuff like that.
You know what, man? It really is. Because in the old days, the tones were great, and there's nothing like plugging into a real amp. Never will be. There's something to be said for that. But, you got what you got night after night. If we were doing fly dates and I got a crappy Marshall or a Boogie that wasn't tubed right or biased right or what have you, it didn't sound right. Mm-hmm. And with this box, you plug into it, it sounds the same every night.
Yeah.
If you have the same power and the same caps, which I do when we tour, it sounds the same every single night. It never changes. And our front of house guys throws up the faders. He never EQs. He never has to. Mm-hmm. Every now and then he'll have to put a high pass filter on it and get rid of some of the low subby stuff. But for the most part, he doesn't have to do really anything to it.
Yeah. Cool. So aside from the Washburns, do you have any kind of guitars that you had to collect for whatever reason? Any kind of prize pieces in your collection, or is it more like working guitars?
For the most part, working guitars. I've got a few pieces in there. I had a break-in years ago, and a lot of my guitars were stolen. Oh, no. I wound up getting back the few that were really important to me. The most important one was my original Rhodes.
Yeah.
And that's the one that you see in the Live in Japan video, and that was on the first 3 albums, and the one that I really played more than any other. I got that back. So I've got that in my collection, obviously. I've got some Paul Reed Smith guitars in my collection, the ones that I played when I was with Boston.
Yep.
And I absolutely love them. I've got a couple of Miras that I love. I've got a few other Jacksons that I'm very partial to. I've also got a Kramer, an original Kramer that I had years ago. I've got my Washburns. Building up quite a collection of those now. I think I've got something like 10 Washburns. Yeah. All different. And killer guitars. Mm-hmm. And then I've also got some Gibsons. I've got a Scorpion Les Paul limited edition. There are only 25 of this particular color. It's the black flame maple with the yellow stripe down the middle. And I've got Les Paul Jr. and SG. I'm trying to think of other guitars that might have the wow factor. I don't have a lot of guitars. I mean, I've got maybe 31 guitars, and that might seem like a lot to a lot of people, but when you've been playing as long as I've been playing, it's really not that much.
Yeah. Oh, believe me,
and
I know.
I just play. I play what what I like. I'm not one of those guys that likes to just collect guitars. All of my guitars are really nice, and I use them. I use every single one of them in this studio and live.
Yeah, cool. That you mentioned Boston a minute ago. Do you ever just stop and kick yourself and go, "Whoa, I was in Boston"?
I do, man. It's interesting because that album played such a role in my shaping as a musician and the history of Michael Sweet. And, every night I was on stage standing next to Tom, I'd be like pinching myself, saying to myself, how did this happen? What's going on? This is crazy. So surreal. And felt like a dream every night. So, to have had the opportunity to do that is really incredible.
Yeah. Well, that looks like our time up, so thanks so much for the chat. It's been really cool to catch up, and I can't wait to see you in Melbourne later this year.
Hey, brother, I can't wait to see you too, man. Let's definitely say hello, and all the best to you. God bless you, and I'm counting the days.
Thanks. I'll catch you soon. See ya.
All right, my friend. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.